And really, this slide is the one that we try to have at the end of each vintage. So the vintage map is an attempt at finding some of the seasonal traits that gives to each vintage its characteristics. So what you see on the x-axis, on the y-axis, is how much rain did we have during the spring. So you remember during the 400 growing degree days where things are really going super fast and setting up the vegetative development of the plant. You see that you have years where we started off with very little rain, like 89 or 2002, and years such as 90 or 98 or 2003 where we had a lot of rain during the spring. So that's one first axis of characterization. And on the horizontal axis, it's the length of the dry period. The dry period starts with the latest springtime rain and ends with the first fall rain. And it has impact, like we are going to discuss 2011 after the lunch. We know it drives the plant physiology and affects the food composition. The color of the dots is an attempt at showing the frequency and severity of heat waves, because heat waves are an intrinsic contributor to shape the wine profile in California. So the redder, the bigger, the higher is the frequency of those heat waves, and the higher is the value of the peak vapor pressure deficit, which is what we use to quantify the severity of the heat wave. You basically read these charts by drawing a diagonal from your left top hand to the bottom right, and as you are going along this diagonal, you move from vintages that bears a very strong climatic footprint, where there is little things that the vineyard manager can do, or the winemaker even, at shaping the food composition, versus vintages like 2008 or 2015, where the footprint of winemaker decision and vineyard managers was exacerbated by the fact that the long dry season and the low spring rain are going to be extremely reflective and influenced by your decision. So that's where we have now 2016. So it's still a vintage that has relatively moderate value and moderate frequency for heat waves. We see a relatively short dry period that is the consequence of the late spring rain plus the early fall rain. And we also observed that the slowdown of growing degree day accumulation, particularly after July, shifted towards the left, the label of this vintage. So that will sum up what we wanted to share with you for 2016, but now we would like to confront those scientific considerations with some more grounded observations coming from professionals. So I'm happy to invite our panelists.